Hey everyone, Zach here, and welcome to the 73rd lesson of this RTS tutorial series. In this video, we'll be taking care of what happens when our units enter a residence because they are either hungry or fatigued. Now, I said this would be a three-part subsection. It's still going to be. However, some of the items I said we'll handle in video 3 we'll take care of in this video. So you might have noticed that the unit kind of stutters as it moves towards a building, and that is one of the issues that I said to take care of in the next video. We will take care of it in this video. You might have also noticed that units never seem to think they've arrived at the target location. We'll also take care of that in this video, as well as the tasks for eating and sleeping. That said, fire up your editor and let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the editor, and in this video we're going to take care of what happens when our units enter and exit buildings. So we'll take care of their increased hunger or decreased hunger and decreased fatigue. But first, I need to make a quick fix to a mistake I made in the last video. Let's open up our behavior tree, go to our exit building, and in our exit building, in our reference casts, I forgot to set our input object for isValid here. So let's quickly just grab our unit reference and set it there. All right, let's save that and compile. Let's go back to our behavior tree. We're just going to cheat here. Let's go to our move to residence. On our move to residence, we have this arrive at building. Let's open that up. And sorry, apparently that wasn't pinned in. So there's our move to building, arrive at building. At the very end here, we need to do one thing. We need to set the current location. So what we're going to do is, well, we're going to create a new Blackboard key setting here. So we're going to get a set value as, sorry about that. Actually, we're going to get a get Blackboard. The target will be self. And off of this, we are going to set value as object. We're going to plug that into here. And we are going to get our target building. So I'm just going to grab that one and duplicate it here. Plug that into there. Let's pull back off our key name and promote to variable. And this variable will be current location. Just want to get the default window open there. And in our current location value, we do need to put current location. And it needs to match what is in the Blackboard. So if we go to our Blackboard here, current location, I'm just going to be lazy and double check by copying and pasting that value into there. There we go. Now I'm going to take all these nodes and I'm going to collapse it down to a function. This function will be set destination. All right, let's move this into our AI folder. Let's also move set destination into our AI as well. All right, and eventually I'll remember to actually set these somewhere as well, but that's fine for now. All right, now that should take care of the issue where our unit doesn't become visible after they exit a building. So go to our exit building. Let's go back to our behavior tree. In here, let's also clean that up a bit because that's going to drive me crazy. In our exit building, when they exit a building, we check, are they actually in a building? And if this is not valid, it's always going to come out as they're outside. So now this should come back as valid if they are in a building. Now let's make our lives a little bit easier. I'm going to remove that breakpoint and go to the release single occupant. In here, we're going to make a couple of other changes as well. So I'm going to grab everything after the set node there for our set is hidden. I'm just going to drag this down a bit. And I'm going to break that for a moment. I'm going to put another reroute in here. And off this reroute, I'm going to grab set target building. And I'm going to leave it empty so nothing is set in there. And then I'm going to put another reroute in here. And I'm going to grab off of here, and I'm going to type in our new function, set destination. So the current location is also invalidated. Plug that into there, and let's go ahead and make sure this works. So I'm just going to hit play. I'm going to grab the support unit here, and I'm going to send them into this building. All right, let's not pause it. Let's speed it up. And when they exit, we shouldn't see just a random unmasking occur. We don't need that. Sorry about that. I don't know why that breakpoint's there. That was from an earlier test. Hit resume, and then you can see the unit comes back out. All right, that takes care of that part of this lesson. Now, let's close these out after saving everything. And we're going to leave the behavior tree open for now. What we're going to take care of is what actually happens when the unit is inside the buildings. So as I mentioned in the intro card, I slightly misspoke about what's going to happen in this video, or in the third video. I mentioned there's a stutter, and if you watch, you can see the stutter as we play the game. You also might notice something a bit off. So let's hit play real quick. And the stutter that I'm talking about is when they move towards the building, they pause every so often. You'll also notice that we had that continuous stream of text saying stuff like that right there. So what's going on is you'll notice, though, if you look at this text carefully, it never says, I've arrived. It's on the move, stopped. So if we take a look at our behavior tree, and I thought we'd be able to get around this into the next video, but we can't, unfortunately. There is a issue going on here. And the issue relates to something that's going on here as well. So we have this notify observer on value change, which means that when this value changes, so when our status changes, all of these get a notification and go, oh, wait, hey, let's see if this is the one we're looking for. Is this equal to fatigue? Well, this equal to fatigue is getting notified multiple times, so it's running through this exit building and this move to residence. And what's causing that is not in this. Let's go back to our main event graph. What's causing this is going off every tick. We're making a reference cast, though we're not casting every time anymore. We're checking if it's a valid reference. And then it's setting our status as is idle. That is a bit of a problem for us, and we need to resolve that. And the way we're going to resolve that is, well, we do need this to be idle when billeting has been found. So to resolve this, besides deleting it, which we're going to do right now, we are going to set the status elsewhere. So with that deleted, let's just plug that into there and move that along, line it up a bit. Let's go back to our behavior tree here and go to our find billeting. In our event graph at the very end, we have this check that says we found our billeting, we're done. So let's just move this along. If this is successful, then what we need to do is we need to set our idle status. Now there's now this is fairly simple to tackle. All we have to do is get our AI controller reference. With it got like that. Let me just zoom in a little bit closer, sorry. There we go. With it there, we need to do is, actually we're going to need to move this along. We need to do one more thing before we actually use this, is we need to get the enum. So we're going to get our status enum, and this will be our unit status enum. We are going to set it to is idle, and then we are going to pass this information along to set Blackboard value as object. I don't know why I did it that way. That's wrong. We don't need the player controller at all. What we need to do is create a new variable, and this will be AI status. This will be a Blackboard key selector. So let's move this into a Blackboard folder after we make it editable. Blackboard selector. Also, our residence should be in that same category. Let's get our AI status. That's the key we're targeting, the value, and it's not an object. We want to set as enum. the value we're setting is going to be 0, oddly enough, because that is the 0 status. We're going to pass that execute pin into there. Just line that up. Put a reroute in there so it's a little bit nicer looking. And let's just keep moving this along. And plug our set status into there. So now when we find billeting, after we set our billeting, we then set our unit status to is idle. Now we do one more thing. In here, in our behavior tree, our AI status needs to be set to status. In fact, I'm going to go back and rename that as status because I've always called it status. So I'm going to paranoidally check that my recording didn't cancel. All right, so now that same status, it's a little bit more in line with my naming convention from other parts. So status is status, status is status here. So now when we come in, this isn't going to run through all this branches again. Sorry, I said 3 because we're going to have 3 things in here. The next thing we're going to do, once I move these over a bit, is we are going to create a new task. Actually, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to set some things up inside of here. We're going to go into here, and before our event execute, or finish execute here, we want to stop the character from moving. So to do that, we need to go up here to begin with. We need to open this up, and let's just clean this up a bit. And we're going to put a reroute in here. We're going to take all of this. Actually, we're going to take all of it, including the output there, and just move this along. Probably should not have moved that reroute pin. All right, we're going to break the execute, and we're going to do is valid with a question mark. We're going to plug that into there. And just because I want this all to line up nicely, line that up there. There we go. What we're going to do is we're going to add a new pin in, but we're going to change this one to pawn first. And then we're going to add a new parameter. This new parameter will be controller. This will be of object. And we're just going to put it up by 1. We are going to cast to unit controller AI, convert to a pure cast, and we're going to grab this bit and just drop it down a little bit more. Move that there. Off of here, we're going to promote to a variable, and this will be our AI controller ref. Put this in our references folder. If this value is not valid, then we want to go through here. I'm just going to move that there, put a reroute in, plug that into there, and then I'm going to grab my AI controller reference, make sure it is valid. If it is, then we don't cast to it again. All right, go back to the main window here, plug the owning controller into the controller there, and break after the print string our finish execute. Grab our AI controller reference, get it, and then we're going to type in stop movement. So it stops moving at this point. Now, if you want to go ahead and test this and make sure it works, you're going to see something a bit strange. In fact, let's take a look at that and make sure it is working. Let's hit play. Let's speed this up. And in a moment or two, hopefully our units will start moving. There they go. On the move, on the move. So as you saw, we're having a bit of a thing where it's not actually printing this up. Now, the reason why that's happening is, well, we're telling it to go to this mesh. This mesh is the problem. It is a bit large, and they're trying to get to the center of it, which they can't do. They can't walk through it. So we're going to actually change what our target is. And our target is not going to be our building mesh. It's going to be our entry point. So we want to get our entry point, and we want to set that to our world location. Next, what we want to do is we want to stop on overlap. So if we test it now, we should get has arrived. Or at least we should get something a little bit more reasonable. On the move, arrived. There we go. We're getting the arrived. Now, we're only getting it from one unit, which is fine. That's just because there are other units in the way. They're just kind of piling up there. So what we want to do for this now is, now that we have that set, it's still actually firing this off, because what's happening is our status isn't changing. So we need another node in our sequence, and that's going to be the major part of today. That's going to be our new task. So let's create a new task. This will be, there we go. This will just be the generic task sort. We're going to name this BTT sleep fatigue. Sorry, not sleep fatigue. Fatigue hunger. Move this into your tasks folder. All right, let's open this up. And we are going to have a couple of events in here. We're going to take care of both our sleep and our fatigue needs here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get an event, or sorry, receive execute AI, and we're going to do our reference casts like usual. We are going to cast to our unit controller, convert to a pure cast. We are going to promote to a variable, and this will be our AI controller ref. We want to know, is this valid, just in case this fires through again, because there is a potential it will fire through again, even though it's only the first time this task is accessed should this fire. But there is a chance that something will go wrong and it will fire a second time. Is that valid? If it is not valid, then we want to cast to it. Then we're going to do the same for our unit itself. So this is our unit master. Again, this is a pure cast. I'm not sure why I put the reroute for that one. The reroute always goes into the lower one for what I do. We want to know, again, is this valid? So let's make a variable for it. And this is our unit reference. Is valid with a question mark. Put our usual reroute into here. Plug that in. Line that up. If it is not valid, then we want to cast to it. And not repeating my mistake from the last video, let's actually put something into our object there. All right. So once we have casted, we want to get certain information. So let's get our unit reference. Sorry, let's not get our unit reference. Let's set our unit reference and our AI reference to our references folder or category. However you want to think about it, it's called category. Let's create a new Blackboard key selector called status. And like I said, Blackboard key selector. So this is our Blackboard selector. And we want to get its value. So we want to get Blackboard enum. So Blackboard value is enum. What we want to do then is we want to get the actual enum reference and set it. So we want to get our status enum. This will be our unit status enum. And we want to set it. If I can move that pin along, that'd be lovely. All right, so if we do all our casts and they're successful, we then want to set our status as the enum value here. We then want to get our status enum. Actually, we're just gonna, we want to get our status enum. We want to pull off of this and do a switch. So we're gonna have different events happening if they're fatigued or hungry. So just plug that into there for now. And let's collapse all of this down to a macro. So this will be our reference casts. Let's just change our pins around a tiny bit. There we go. I meant to have the reroute in there, but I'll fix that in a second. Okay. So now we can take care of what they do in those situations. Actually, before we really do that, we're going to do a little bit more cleanup. We're going to go into here, clean that up, put the reroute that I missed back in. If you didn't miss that reroute, good for you. You didn't make the same mistake I did. All right, and this is controller. This is unit. There we go. Yep, controller unit. All right. So the next bit is we need to create two either custom events or functions. I prefer having them as custom events, but they do work as as functions as well. Actually, we're going to have 4 total. So the first one is going to be reduce fatigue. And we're actually going to make all 4 custom events first, just so we have an idea what's happening. So we want to reduce our fatigue at this one. The next custom event will be restore fatigue. So when we're done reducing our fatigue, we want to restore our fatigue timer. And actually, I'm going to rename this again as restore fatigue gain. And then we're going to do the same thing for our hunger. So this will be our reduce hunger. And then another custom event, our restore hunger gain. All right. So what's going to happen here is, if you remember on our AI controller, let's take a quick look at that, how this is set up. Let's actually get rid of this. Let's go to our event graphs. We have our set fatigue timers. We check, is our fatigue gain paused? If it is, then we decrease our fatigue. And the same is true for our hunger. Is our fatigue or our hunger gain paused? If so, we are eating and lose hunger. So let's do this fairly simply, as we're going to get our AI controller. We are going to find off of it our fatigue gain timer handle. We want to pause this timer handle, and then just because we pause it doesn't mean anything has actually happened. It doesn't know, hey, this is paused. We need to tell it to do something now, because we need to call the other functions into play. We need to pull off of this, and we need to do set status. This is going to run through all our timers that we're setting up, and it's going to go, hey, this one's paused now. So let's just put those reroutes in and then take a look at what we're actually doing. So what we're doing is, once we pause it, we go through, it goes into here, into our fatigue, go, oh, this is paused, go to this branch now. All right, that's the wrong one. It's our fatigue hunger. It isn't as simple, well, it is fairly simple, but isn't as simple as unpausing this timer for the next bit. What we need to do, and I'm just going to grab these 3 nodes, is we need to unpause that timer. So unpause, but we now have a new timer that's active, and we need to pause that timer. So we're going to pull off of here and get our fatigue loss timer handle, and we are going to pause this timer handle. Now with this paused, we're going to gain back fatigue levels, which means the unit will eventually need to go to sleep again. We're going to repeat the same process for these 2 new custom events. So again, let's grab our AI controller. In fact, I'm just going to grab all of this, set it down here, plug that in, and I'm just going to break that, pull off of here, and this will be my hunger gain timer handle. Plug that into there, and I'm going to grab all of these nodes, duplicate them down here, plug that in, and again, I'm just going to delete that one and that one. Pull off of here. This will be my... Actually, I shouldn't have deleted... I should have. Just going to duplicate that one into there. Sorry about that. I was thinking that this was my hunger when I duplicated it. And this will be my hunger loss timer handle. Plug that into there. Okay. So we have to call 2 of these functions potentially up from here, and the other 2 somewhere else. So the 2 we need to call up down here, or sorry, up here, is our gain, or reduce fatigue, and a reduce hunger. But we need a little bit more than just that. So what we're going to do is, first, we are going to call those functions. This will be our reduce fatigue, and this will be our reduce hunger. Now, because only one status can go off at a time, now they're still going to be gaining hunger as they're sleeping, but only one status can be activated at a time based on our setup in the last video. We can only worry about one of these going off at a time, so we're going to have just what's known as a random value that will determine when each one of these will stop. So our random value will plug into there. And this doesn't look random right now, I realize. So what we're going to do is we're going to do random float in range. And I'm just going to set this as 0, so no fatigue or no hunger, to 10%. And I'm also going to plug that into there. So that way, it fires through, it activates these, and then it sets a value that will be our cutoff value. So when we reduce our hunger or fatigue to a level between these two ranges, the new timers, or the lost timers, will be paused. So how do we pause those timers? Well, to pause those timers, what we need to do is we need to create yet another event. Or actually, we don't need to create it. It's already there. And this is going to be a receive tick AI. So this is going to fire every tick. We're going to grab our enum status, though, and we are going to switch depending on what we need to do. So if they need fatigue, we'll take care of the fatigue. In fact, that's the one we'll do, and then we'll actually just duplicate that over. So what we need to do here is we need a branch. This branch will have in it our unit reference. We are going to get our fatigue, and we want to know, is our fatigue less than or equal to our random value? If it is less than or equal to our random value, then we want to restore our fatigue gain. If it's not, then we don't want to do anything. Restore fatigue gain. All right, I'm going to take these nodes. I am going to collapse them down to a function. I'm going to name this function sleeping. All right, let's just clean this up a bit and put a return node in. Now let's duplicate this function. This function will be eating. We are going to delete that. This will become hunger. So we want to get our unit hunger. We want to know, is that less than or greater or equal to, less than or greater than, is that less than or equal to our random value? If it is, then we want to restore our hunger gain. All right. With that done, we are nearly completed. Let's just plug that node in as well. So hunger, or is hungry, into eating. Now the thing is, when this is done, our unit, our AI, is still going to go on either fatigued or hungry still. So we need to grab our status enum. We need to set it. We're going to put a reroute in here. And we need to set it as is idle. We then need to get our status value here. And again, before I forget, let's make that so we can actually see it. And we need to set value as enum. Plug that into there. And the next thing we need to do is we need to plug this into there. I'm just going to put a couple of reroutes in. Now there is one small problem still. We actually need to tell this task that it's done. So we're going to pull off of here. We're going to do a finish execute, and it has finished successfully. All right. We also will need to take care of the abort, but we'll do that in a later video. So let's make sure this actually works. Let's save everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a breakpoint right here. We actually need to call that task into play. So let's get that task of fatigue sleep, or fatigue hunger. And we're going to call this one sleeping, or sleep. All right. Sleep status needs to be status. Let's duplicate this over here. Plug that into there. And in this one, We're not going to name it sleep. It's going to be eat. Okay. Now let's test this out. Open that unit up. We can see that Sue Allison's fatigue is slowly increasing. She's on the move. Ooh, something went wrong here. What went wrong? All right. Well, what we're going to do, and I think I realize what the issue is because that false is going there, we're going to put a value into here of success. I put that in the wrong side. We're going to put a value on our outputs of success. We're going to make that true there. We're going to duplicate this down here, make it untrue, and plug that into the false. All right, so now that we put that in, before we test it, now let's make a branch in our main graph here. And we should do the same for sleeping, but we'll test that in a second. We want to just break that for a second. We're going to put a branch in. If that is true, then we want this to fire. Let's add a breakpoint there too. Now let's test it. Don't know why I did that way. So Jenny Blackwell's turn. On the move. Here we are. We're false. So nothing happens. We can break that breakpoint. We can hit resume. And the fatigue should be decreasing. So if we make this full screen, you can see the fatigue is indeed decreasing. You can also see the hunger is increasing. So I'm going to pause this video, and I'm going to resume when the fatigue level is nearly back down. When the fatigue level is dropped to the point that it should be in idle again, and we should see the fatigue level increase. Okay, welcome back. I have a breakpoint in there to stop it right when we got to the is idle. So let's take a look. We're going to just resume play. And we're going to remove that breakpoint. And we can see the fatigue level is going back up, which is exactly what we're looking for. Let's just make this full screen again so you can see that it's going back up. And let's go take a look at another unit that was Allison, or Blackwell, sorry. Not sure I thought it was Allison. And again, the other units are responding the same way. So that takes care of what we need. Now, let's put that same success into here. So, success, duplicate it down here. Set to true, go back to the event graph, and you can't plug both of these in there. Oh, yeah, you can't plug both of those in there, unfortunately. So instead, I'm going to break that reroute. What we're going to do is we are going to create a new bool value. So we're going to promote to variable, and this will be, just call it success as well. Plug that into there. Grab that same value. We want to set it here. And we want to put a reroute in. Plug down there. And move this all along. And plug that into there. And just so I have this in a bool folder like I normally do. There we go. That takes care of what to do if our player needs, or our units need to eat or sleep. All right, that said, we have covered everything we need to cover in this lesson. In the next lesson, what we'll take care of is what happens when our units have finished eating or sleeping in terms of leaving the building, so they're not just sitting in there waiting for us to realize that they're done. And we'll take care of issues around that engineer unit as well. And if you've liked this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button down below. Hitting that like button really does help this channel out. It is something that YouTube looks at a lot for its search algorithms. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notify icon so you know when the next tutorial is out. And if you want to help support this channel further, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. At certain tiers, you will get access to the completed file. At higher tiers, you'll get access to the completed file when the tutorial is done and the file for the tutorial in progress. All of that said, I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.